Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Are we on yet?
Yep.
Looks like we are.
All
Yes, we
right.
are.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Grant McGaw, CEO of Five Star BDM, and your moderator for today's webinar. And as we stand on the brink of a technological renaissance, today we delve into navigating the shift, integrating emerging technologies in existing infrastructures. And with us are three distinguished speakers. That's Ronak Shah, myself, Grant McGaw, and Naresh Samlal, each a beacon of expertise in pushing the frontiers of technology and business. And as we embark on this journey today, let's ponder a crucial question. In an era where technology evolves at breakneck speed, how can businesses not just keep up, but stay ahead, ensuring reliability amidst rapid change? So get ready to explore cutting edge insights that promise not to just inform, but to transform the way we think about and interact with technology. This session will be conducted in two parts. First, we will address the infrastructure layer with Naresh Samlal, followed by Ronak Shah, who will address the software engineering layer. Naresh Samlal, president of Cloud Compliance Solutions Incorporated, is an expert in cloud compliance and security, guiding businesses through the complexities of cloud technology with innovative and customer centric solutions. And with a deep rooted commitment to technical excellence, Naresh's leadership transforms chaotic IT systems into efficient operations. His experience includes over a decade of tailoring cutting edge cloud solutions to unique business needs, focusing on enhancing security and compliance for diverse industries. And also with us is Ronak Shah, who is the CEO at Agile InfoWays, and he has spent over 17 years spearheading innovative IT solutions like ERP, web and mobile apps, AI, and IoT. His extensive experience prior to founding Agile InfoWays includes roles as a quality assurance manager at renowned companies like Charles Schwab, Xerox Corporation, and Citi Financials. Ronak excels in transforming business needs into technology realities through strategic planning and a deep understanding of both client requirements and cutting edge technologies. So I want to welcome these two gentlemen to today's discussion. And before we start, I want to make sure that the audience understands that this is an interactive session. And we welcome your comments. You can write them in, whether you're on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube, or whatever you're watching this live, to make sure that we are as interactive as possible. So, first, I will start with Naresh. And my first question to you is this: could you discuss the necessary IT infrastructure adjustments and upgrades needed to effectively integrate AI and any other emerging technologies in today's field?
Grant, I really appreciate the introduction. I hope I can live up to that because that sounded like somebody else for a minute. But I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Ronak. It's exciting to be able to have this conversation with you and and engage in what I think is a really interestingly timed discussion. We didn't plan to have this with the context that we do today, in light of recent events with this global IT impact and everyone feeling the effects of it. So whether it's AI or any technology or just the course of operations, we're gonna effectively talk about today the importance of managing change. And so whether it's again a simple deployment or affecting change to your organization from a transformation perspective, I think first things first, as infrastructure and traditional IT folks, we need to accept that we need to change. And so what we did 15, 20 years ago, those methodologies, those practices, the way we approached supporting a business must change. We have to be adaptable. We have to be educated on what's necessary to be able to support what is the new wave of technology, the way the world consumes technology today. So we'll dive into some of that stuff. I'm really excited about that, but I feel like we need to still talk about foundational things, because while we're trying to move as fast as the speed of business, technologists, core and foundational technologists, are still very much rooted in how things used to be and still resist change. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But as president of CCSI, being in a chair that I sit today, where I support many, many, many different organizations, I run into this situation on a daily basis. So prior to CCSI, I worked with a very large healthcare organization that spanned the entire country, and I was tasked with making the user experience optimal. And so from a technical perspective, and so that meant from a consumption of technology to the support of it, to the engineering of it, and to sustainability of it, working with infrastructure teams as well. And I did that for several years in an executive capacity. And I felt that I needed to have more impact. And so I switched sides of the table to be on this side, where today I serve over 100 different companies as clients. And at CCSI, we've created a platform, a cloud platform, to do just that, to serve. And so almost every day I run into a conversation or a situation or a challenge with a customer or a new customer or potential customer where change hasn't really happened the way it's needed. And so it starts with a mindset. It starts with how IT guys, effectively use the lens at looking at the business and what those requirements are. I feel like the word alignment is still very, relevant. We go through these phases of buzzwords, right? And so it was blockchain a couple of years ago, and before that was interoperability and things like that. But alignment, business alignment, is still very much something we're not good at as IT guys, as infrastructure guys. From a software side of the house, I think that's much, folks are a little bit more ahead, but going to the cloud is very much checking a box. But what does that mean? How does that, are you just doing something just because the other person's doing it, or the company's telling you need to do this? Or are you really aligning with what's necessary for the next phase of business, the next phase of technology to properly support that? So we'll get into that a little bit. That's very much what we do today at CCSI is, fast forward that process. But if as a technologist, you don't change the way you think, you're going to be essentially given a helicopter and try to drive it like a Pinto. And so you really need to change the way to really maximize the benefit and the value. And Ronak, I'm sure you're going to give us examples from your side of the house with this. You can be given the keys to that very fast machine, game-changing machine. But if we're treating it and looking at it as same old, we're going to have some challenges. We're not going to really reach the value of those things. And so infrastructure is not exempt from that. In fact, I might be picking on the infrastructure guys because I come from that side of the house, but it feels like we really need to do a better job. And it starts from the way we think, not just, the next thing that's forced upon us from a technical perspective. So being able to accept those changes, you now have to look forward into how compatible are you. You really have to understand what you're trying to do. You know, and these things are not technical. I'm going to talk about things that may not be technical, but you have to take those concepts and those thoughts and those topics and apply it to your environment. There is not a, you know, a magic pill in a prescription of how you execute things, because what I do for one customer is going to be different for another. And Ronak, same for you, right? And if you're in an organization today, what is going to work for you may not be the exact blueprint that works for somebody else, because everyone's different, whether you want to admit that or not. And so there's not a true prescriptive approach. There's much more of a framework approach. Ronak, do you want to come in on that? I see you.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's absolutely true. You know, it's every customer is unique for us, and every customer we treat, the way we design the whole software solution is unique, and everyone has a different level of security structures, different level of cloud implementation, and it really stays unique from customer to customer point of view. But just to give a little guideline to the people on the audience very quickly about this event that took place last week, you know, like because I worked even though I'm running my company for 17 years, before that I was a quality assurance manager with big financial companies in Charles Schwab and like that. And see, there's one key aspect that everybody should know, like how did someone go and crash the Microsoft operating system? You know, like everybody is asking that. But we have to understand that, yes, there are possibilities that no one can really do it. But, you know, there are some companies, you know, like CrowdStrike or any other, there are a number of companies who are putting a lot of great security level for their client. You know, they are able to make changes at the kernel level. And like kernel level is like ring zero. Ring zero is nobody is allowed to touch except Microsoft and their approved partners, you know, and then they have to go through something called WHQL certificate, which is Windows Hardware Quality Labs certification, before even they make changes to the kernel level. But sometimes there are events that companies like CrowdStrike, they find that there are events happening on their customers, or they see a potential attacks that is gonna come, and they may not even have enough time to go through that certification process, and they have to deploy changes. This is what in the general scenario we see from the outside world, you know, and then they have to make that change to protect their clients. And that change is at the kernel level, where we see this big crash, about 8.5 million customers across the world. But that's something that we really need to avoid in the moving forward. You know, how now one incident took place, now how do you really protect that not to happen again? You know, but yeah, I'm sorry.
No, this is a great discussion. I'm sure our audience wanted to talk about the elephant in the room. And that is definitely a big elephant, you know, and understanding what you talked about earlier, Naresh. This is not just a software solution when you have bad code, because what CrowdStrike found out is that they had to go out to these particular machines. To what Ronak just said, it's in the kernel, so you can't make the changes remotely. You've got to go directly to the machine. They have to go to 8,000 machines located in all different various sectors to actually implement the solution and the change. And you see, it affected airlines, it affected a lot of different things. So here's the question as we talk through this, because the infrastructure layer, even though we call it the cloud, it's very much grounded on this earth. As a data center guy, it ain't up there. It's right here. It's on the ground where these data centers are actually operating. I want to hear from Naresh, because you work on all of that, and you manage a national cloud platform. What are the particular challenges related? You kind of alluded to this: technological compatibility, scalability, security when integrating these new technologies. What are some best practices in those areas?
So really great question. And so, you know, a lot of folks are, if you're not on-prem today, you know, with a 20-year-old OS, and I wish that was a joke. It's serious. You're probably in a public cloud solution, right? And if not to get into the details of this, but if you looked at the fix that was put out by CrowdStrike, and this is not to pick on this situation, it's just timely. If you look at the fix for that, it was one of two. If you were in a particular public cloud, this was the steps you should take. And if you were on-prem where you had full control of your ecosystem, these are the steps you should take. Now, I say that because going back to my initial point about having a strategy and being educated about your alignment and how you execute, if you put all your eggs in one basket, you are going to have to accept the risks that come with that, right? And so, because I'm biased to being a private cloud organization, that's what we offer, is a private cloud ecosystem. We actually offered, and we had direct customer benefit because of this. I had, of the hundreds of customers that we have, I had 2 customers affected. One very small, we were able to resolve that immediately, and the other one, a Fortune 100 organization that took a little bit more time, just naturally because of the steps. But in either case, they benefited from a cloud solution that they had the granular level of access to affect change, to be able to recover quickly. So my point is, a hybrid approach might be the best bang for the buck, right? And I say that might be because I don't know everyone's ecosystem, but surely for our customers' case, it was the best, the best combination of having to benefit, to get the benefit of the cost and management capabilities of a cloud provider, but also having the reach as if it's your own, because they didn't have to follow those steps that, by the way, were not really great, and not for the public cloud offering. Those steps were not bulletproof. I saw a lot of issues where it didn't work, and those businesses were not able to recover as quickly as a result of that. Whereas in the other case, where you had access to your ecosystem, you can in the first shot, you were able to solve that problem. So, it's a real example, and not to capitalize on it, but it was a real example of why a hybrid cloud or a private cloud solution made a lot of sense. A lot of folks jumped on the bandwagon to go on public cloud, and today are feeling the effects of the cost, the flexibility, the scalability, the lack of scalability, until you run into an issue like the one we just had, and you realize how much control you don't actually have, right? And when you call for support, who are you calling? Are you just another person in queue, and you're talking to a level 1, level 2? So really thinking that through, it's time that we really accept, and Grant, you just said it, that the cloud is not some magical, mystical thing. It is somebody else's computer. That's what it is, right? Whether it be with a public cloud provider or a private cloud provider, think about your partnerships with those people and really dig into the level of access that you have with those, right? And so biasly, I could say, yeah, our customers in this real example were able to have a quicker recovery time in this example. Now you could what if to death a situation when you're planning, right? Yeah. For remediation. You can really go to the nth degree, and that's why, it makes sense to kind of accept some levels of risks. And maybe this is an acceptable level of risk for some companies if you don't want to protect against this happening again, except it happened. So how can you prevent against that, right? It really puts some scrutiny on public cloud providers today. How can you guys be prepared for that for your customers? And also for customers who do subscribe to that, or who are on-prem and you're maybe not leveraging the benefits of cloud, look at private cloud providers and look at them as an option that gives you the best of both worlds. And so selfishly, I can say that that's kind of the situation that we were able to offer our customers, and not just our customers. Because of that, I had some bandwidth to help folks who are not customers at no cost. I just wanted to make. I was an IT guy. I used to push the buttons years ago. I know what that life was like. I can only imagine what those guys were going through last Friday, all weekend, 24 hours nonstop. I've lived that, and it's not fun. And so if there was anything we could have done, we offered that as well. But I was only able to do that because we had the flexibility of knowing our customers are taken care of. We're good to go. Who else can we help now?
So important to understand these things. And that's just one thing. We're talking about CrowdStrike is cybersecurity. Microsoft obviously is an operating system and runs a lot of business systems, right? You're dependent on these things as an organization. You can't
you trust them.
You trust them exactly to do the right thing. Like your stuff should be working. I shouldn't have the blue screen of death. And I was in the airport and I'm sitting there looking at this thing. I'm like, what the heck is going on? But we started to realize as a community, as a society, how dependent we are on these systems. And we cannot go backward. We're completely dependent on these systems. I'm going to swing this over to Rona. And because everybody's on this AI craze, and obviously you've lived this world, AI, ML, you're in this world, but you also do something around customized software engineering platforms. And you know the difference between something that you can get off the shelf and something that you can customize. Help us understand when deploying AI software developments, or can it really enhance a system capability, or is it something we really need to keep our eyes on?
Yeah, so basically, deploying AI in software development can significantly enhance the system capabilities and can really streamline the process. The most important part is, if you really look at the Microsoft, Microsoft has a Visual Studio, and GitHub has a Copilot. They actually come with an AI assistant now, which can really help you in the code completion, code generation, and error detection. Like these AI powered tools can even help you directly ahead of time. It can really help you automate the repetitive coding tasks, and it can really identify the potential bugs. Even in the code refactoring process, these AI tools are amazing. It can really analyze your existing code base, and actually it can really suggest you the optimizations and the performance improvement right there. So even in the testing part, in the quality control side, what we have seen is now these AI driven tools are actually generating the automated test cases and execute them. So there are very less chances that you're going to miss a lot of bugs in the code. So there's a full predictive analysis coming up for the bug detection. So the way AI do is they can really look at the patterns, how the coders are writing the code, and they even look at their historical mistakes, how this coder had done. And based on that, they know that these are the more bugs that this coder will introduce into the system. These AI assistants are actually finding bugs ahead of time. Now even in the we have enhanced project management tool. There are AI driven project management tools which are coming up, like tools like Jira, Asana. These tools are incorporating AI, and based on that, we are actually now able to define more accurate project timelines. We identify the bottlenecks on the project delivery timelines, and even it can help you optimize your resource allocation more efficiently. And there is also a sentiment analysis. Like there are some of the things that we do it's like amazing when people hear what is the sentiment analysis in the project management lifecycle. So AI can analyze the communication within the development team in the project management tool. Based on that, it can really gauge the moral, and then it can identify even the areas of concern in terms of the delivery. And also there is a NLP, like natural language processing, we are using now. So these NLP techniques that we are using, when we have a meetings with the clients, or there are way we email the client, and there are a number of things which are happening in the communication of the client, this NLP basically captures all of them and prepare the scope documents or does the requirement analysis. So a lot of basic work is being done by the AI assistant. Another thing, we have these chatbots available for developers now. So even if the developers are stuck anywhere, they can basically speak to the chatbot and find out the solutions in their coding issues. So in the real world examples, if you look at IBM has something called Watson. So Watson basically integrates with various development tools right now, and it automates the code review and does the full performance optimization. Google has something called TFX, which is like TensorFlow extended. So Google uses this TFX basically, and it streamlines its complete machine learning pipelines. Similarly, Salesforce brought something called Einstein, and it's an amazing tool. Okay, this Einstein has the capacity which does the full predictive analytics, natural language processing, machine learning models, and it enhances the full CRM experience for their customers. So this is how AI has brought the full revolution even in the software development world. Usually people learn AI about the outside application, that AI is giving a great outputs to different level of outside application, but inside the software development world, AI is helping to efficient and smartly writing the code. So I'm pretty sure a lot of AI is still in the baby steps as far as we concerned. So there's a lot of more innovations around the go.
I want to swing it over to Naresh. Here's my,
Yeah.
and I've heard this from other people when they talk about AI, and AI is a great tool, but what kind of load does it put on the infrastructure? And is it good? Is it bad? Is it different? Do you have to scale? I mean, what does that look like on your side of the ball, Naresh?
So that's actually a really good point. So when you think of, legacy systems, legacy infrastructure, and you add, AI is usually is a innovator, right? Is usually brought in for innovation, for chasing a competitive edge. It's definitely added to whatever you have. And so you think of anything you're about to add, and when you're getting into data and analysis and these types of things, load becomes a different conversation. And so when you talk about legacy, this is where the cloud is very attractive, because your ability to scale very quickly and manage load and not have infrastructure get in the way of the innovation that you're trying to accomplish. This is where the cloud makes a lot of sense. But you have, again, this goes back to the planning phase. This goes back to alignment, understanding what you're trying to accomplish. So when Ronak and his team sits with a customer to try to understand what are the problems we're trying to solve, the infrastructure team should be at the table or included in that conversation to be aligned with what are the necessary components that needs to be integrated into the ecosystem to make those things true. And so, having alignment at the table to understand exactly what we're trying to accomplish, understanding what are your options to realize those accomplishments, and then instituting those things, not just with a checkbox, but taking into consideration sustainability, resilience, security, all these things. You're now having to really not only implement something, but make it survivable, right? And so we talk about, Ronak gets really good examples about, release management and even pre-release management, putting things out there. Well, once it's in operation, there's a whole other life cycle that has to follow that. And how do you manage that? And which cloud makes the most sense for you to do that on? And maybe some of it is better to be done on-prem, but that's really where you got to do some analysis as to what your ecosystem looks like. Do you have the right components in place? Do you have the ability to scale with the pods that you've picked, whether it be, public cloud, private cloud, on-prem, however you mix that, however what does transformation look like for you? You have to define these things and factor in, your AI innovation and the exercises you're going to engage in to support those things. It's not just, and I say that because a lot of what I've seen over the years, firsthand, is an infrastructure approach is just really buying more hardware based on user growth not really understanding what do we want to do as an organization and what is that going to mean to the needs that I'm going to come. We're almost always caught at the end. Oh, well, I need to go buy servers. I need to go add more memory because this just got thrown in my lap. Well, we kind of need to run that up the line a little bit further. We need to get ourselves as infrastructure planners up the line a little bit more further so we can plan accordingly and have the right ecosystems in place. Because, capacity is one thing, but then you have to figure out the security strategy around those things, right? The backup strategy. How are you going to be resilient in a case like this, right? If something were to go wrong, when your company now has all this AI capability that it's now its competitive edge, how are you going to protect that to make sure it's always going to be operational and feeding the business the way it needs to be? So that strategy comes in, and you have to, and we all know security is a moving target. So waiting, setting something in place and waiting is not the right approach, right? It's always educating yourself. It's always, engaging the right partners. And Ronak and his team, they'll implement AI and technology and all your software needs, but they're not ignorant to the capabilities that are going to keep those things running, right? So trusting in your partners, finding the right partners for you, not being closed-minded to what's bleeding edge, because bleeding edge is a pretty good sign of what's going to be, the next wave that's going to be, foundational to your ecosystem. So it's really, I don't want to make this seem intimidating, but if you can't wait for something to happen, you have to get in front of it and almost have an internal transformation exercise within your ecosystem when you look at your infrastructure. It's not just a refresh exercise. It is understanding what is the next 2 to 3 years of technology needs going to look like, before I just replace this particular component. Maybe replacing it is not the answer. Maybe having it reside in a different place might be the better answer, right? But educate yourself, get the right partners involved, and design a strategy that may not be support from the top, but if you come with something comprehensive, you're going to have buy-in. At least you're going to have protection in what's required from you, from your business. Does that make sense?
So yeah, it makes 100% certain, because we had this exercise. We keep going back to it, but people need to understand. I want everyone that's listening now understand what happens when it hits the fan. Change management. How do we minimize disruption during these transitions in technology? And I'm sure there was no one meant, it was just a routine, change in code. It wasn't nothing major. We weren't really implementing any new emerging technology. I want to ask Ronak, because you do this, you put out a lot of customized code. Maybe a new application that could revolutionize the business, and there's a huge ROI attached to this. What do you do to minimize this type of disruption as you look to implement these types of solutions from a software perspective?
Yeah, so you see, integrating the cutting edge solutions, that are really has a lot of operational challenges. One, what we see is the compatibility and integration issues are very big. So new solutions, they may not be really compatible with the legacy systems. It's really creates a lot of integration issues. What we have seen is data migration is really big issues as well, because moving data from old system to a newer platform, it could be really complex, very risky, and it takes a lot of time. It's a time consuming process. And there are security concerns, because now you're trying to layer new technologies with AI and legacy platforms. You're trying to integrate a lot of different things together, and that can really introduce a lot of security vulnerabilities. So, and what we have seen is a lot of organization, like employees or stakeholders, they really resist adopting new technologies because they're always scared, like what are the things going to happen to our existing infrastructure. They don't want to mess up their existing business processes, and there is a cost overruns, as Naresh mentioned. There is a huge cost. Implementing a new solution can be really expensive, or it can exceed the initial budget. So new solutions, it may not even perform well if you don't have a right infrastructure. That's very, very important. If you do not have a right cloud infrastructure or whatever the other services that you're using, it's gonna crash. And there is a lot of compliance and regulatory issues that also comes in when you're implementing a new thing. So we've been actually going through several different sectors and domains right now, upgrading to them to a different level, where our company Agile Infoways are doing it. And one in the healthcare sector, the challenges that we see is, we are integrating these AI driven diagnostic tools into the existing EHR systems. And the biggest problem that we see is the data issue. The data privacy issues are there. They have a data formats are even not standardized. It's different formats in every different sets of databases that they are using, or different systems that they are using. So we have to go through a lot of robust encryption and a lot of strong access control systems that we have to establish in the EHR systems before even we put the AI layer on top of that. Similarly, in the finance sector, we are working on implementing AI for fraud detection. Now, a lot of financial systems are in the old mainframe systems or in some of the legacy systems. So now we have to use the middleware to breach the old and new systems before even we bring the AI for fraud detection purpose. And in the retail sector, like we are deploying AI driven tools right now for personalized marketing. I think everybody knows in the world. Let's say if you go on Google and if you search for any kind of shirt or shoes or something, and if you go to any other website, they still follow you. They still show you the same content or advertisements. And the companies, we are the companies who design these kind of AI tools for make that happen. But now the data integration is a very big problem because of this personalized marketing tools we are doing right now. And for that purpose, we do a lot of implementing the data lakes for centralized data storage, and then we implement AI into the retail sector. So there are definitely a lot of challenges that we see while we implement this kind of cutting edge solution into the legacy or the older system.
That's so important. We got a lot of people that are listening now in the technology landscape, and they're saying like, yeah, I got this software stack layer, and I've got this infrastructure layer, and I want to ask this of Naresh, as you in your world, you're a private cloud provider. What do you do? How do you analyze the infrastructure? Let's say of a new client, and you talk to them, and I would hope you're talking to them, and they said, "Hey, we want to implement Roanoke's new, customized software solution." What do you take your, do you do an assessment? Do you take your customer through a certain value proposition, look at the ROI? I mean, what exactly do you do before you just adopt the new technology?
So that's actually a really good point. I wanted to talk about the question that we have in the chat regarding gap analysis, and so perfect opportunity to integrate that, because that is an invaluable tool to prevent against surprises, right? And I found that I think the person asking the question definitely knows that, because that's what's going to uncover what is not top of mind for the folks that are doing diligence or sharing information. The gap analysis is an extremely important tool, because it's going to show you exactly where you have these gaps that you may not there's things things you don't know, and then there's this quadrant of things you don't know, right? Mm-hmm. That's going to help show you how big that particular quadrant is, where you have, because it may be a legacy environment, or your existing team may not be the ones that had set it up, and you have this technical debt, but you don't know what you don't know, and that's kind of where the gap analysis is going to show you what life is going to look like if you make changes, drastic changes, uninformed changes to things, right? Mm-hmm. And so we leverage that quite a bit to understand, well, if we do lift and shift or integrate or whatever makes sense here, that's going to help us understand. It's going to reduce the surprises that we run into. And that's a tough pill to swallow when you don't do those things, because there's cost that somebody's going to have to eat because you didn't prepare for it. But understanding exactly what we're getting involved in, leveraging partners that that complement our skills, like Ronak's team, is going to help understand, because we are a platform provider where we don't share the same expertise that Ronak's team has, right? I'm going to call him in when I have an ecosystem that's in his wheelhouse to help assess the situation. And going back to what I'm talking about, getting your trusted partners, lean on people that's what they do. They're good at that. Leverage those skills and those capabilities. IT guys are notorious for having big egos. I'm definitely one of those, and it used to be even bigger, right? But you live and you learn, and you learn from those things. And so trying to uncover those things, so you really go in eyes wide open to a situation to prevent against cost overruns or surprise costs that you just really didn't factor in. We are a unique private cloud provider in that we're fixed fee, and we really don't nickel and dime things. We don't do death by 1,000 cuts. So, we kind of take the approach of making things simple and easy, even from a cost perspective. However, there are still surprises, right? As much as I want to simplify what is a very complex exercise, we're in business to be able to survive, to do business tomorrow too, and I want to make sure that we can manage cost. And so really doing that diligence, leveraging gap analysis and other good practices is really what's going to help uncover the surprises. And I say good practices, I don't subscribe to best practices, because there is no shoe that fits everyone, right? There's no methodology that works in every situation. Good practices are that 80% that applies to a lot of people. And so leveraging good practices is really what's going to help uncover those things that allow you to integrate and help us be successful, right? And we're successful when our customers are successful and they get the most value out of their spend. So if we can do that together by leveraging good practices, tools like the gap analysis, really understanding, aligning with our customer on what their expectations are, a lot of the conversation I have is value conversation, because we throw a lot of value at our customer that they may not realize. And that's the beauty of our business, is that, I'm sure Ronak's the exact same way. We try to simplify the complexities of technology by being the expert, and really, in a lot of cases, shielding our customer from what is just noise to them, but it's heavy weight that we have to carry as industry experts to make our customers' journey successful. Well, we shield them from that. It still means we have to do that work, and Ronak still has to go do that work, and has done it to make sure its customer gets the best experience. But how do we manage that and reach our customer goals and still be, successful business owners, and have our customer be successful is a chaotic ballet in which we leverage tools and good practices to make sure that our customers getting the best experience. We are doing right by them, providing a scalable, survivable, secure environment every time, whether they know of all the inner workings or not, right? We went out and built this Fortune 100 capability of infrastructure and offer it as a private platform to eliminate the need for our customer having to do that, to go figure that out. We'll open our kimono and show you all that's there if you need to, but we take the heavy lifting off for them, just like I'm sure Ronak and his team would do.
I tell you, well, I love how you said that chaotic balance, the chaotic ballet. I want to go to that show, because I don't think we realize what that really is like to maintain these systems 24/7 at the scale that we're at, and the people that are behind that, which brings up something. And some people, especially on the audience, will know technical debt. The technical debt isn't always legacy or the systems that you have. Sometimes technical debt is your workforce skills. What are the skill sets that you now need that you didn't need before that you now need? And I want to direct this to Ronak, because transforming your workforce and the roles to leverage these new technologies effectively. I've heard from we had some others on our show, and they were talking about, now I need AI engineers, I need data scientists, I need these other roles that I didn't need before. I mean, what are you seeing in this area of workforce skills?
So what I see is, there are a couple of things that I wanted to cover in this. One is the whole change management process before you and we go to the workforce, because you have to have a right change management plan when you are upgrading your legacy system to a whole new with the new technology stack. You have to have a very clear vision and plan that really gives you full change management timelines, milestones, and resource allocation. Like you really need to engage and communicate with the stakeholders, because what we have seen is we work with some big Fortune 500 clients, and the leadership team is so big, they don't even have a time that we are going through this whole change management process. They don't even know what a lot of things are happening. So we have to keep them updated, invite them to several meetings. If they don't make it, we go through email communication. They have their intranet set up, so we have to push the updates to the intranet, so everybody in the organization know that these are the changes which are coming up, and then they have to really invest heavily into their training and support their employees, because once you make those changes, you really have to get buy-in from their employees. So make a cross-functional teams and involve them more actively into it. And best important part is do this changes in the incremental way. Don't try to push everything in one shot. Break down these whole changes into the manageable stages with clear goals for every single phase. And most important part is you have to do the real close monitor and adjust, like really use the matrix or KPIs to track the progress and maybe make the adjustment to see how people are adopting those new changes. So the biggest burning question that what we have seen is the return on investment. Like a lot of people, when they ask about, I'm pretty sure the same question is coming to Naresh and their company as well, saying that, hey, you're asking us to upgrade everything, but how do we justify our ROI on this new investment? And there is definitely, I wanted to cover that quickly on the ROI side, so at least the audience knows that, how upgrading to your infrastructure or your software, how does it really pay you out later on, but first let's cover up the quick costing part. Like you're actually upgrading to a newer hardware and software, so you're purchasing a new hardware, you're purchasing the software licensing and cloud subscription, or the private cloud companies like Naresh, right? And then there's definitely implementation cost. You're installing and configuring this new technology. It includes some more cost, and then there's a training. You have to start training your company, your people, and that's not all. This thing is a one-time cost, but how about the ongoing cost? There is a maintenance and support. You have regular maintenance fees, support contracts, you have a cloud subscription fees, or your operational cost goes a little higher because of the newer technology. But I want to give you a couple of examples of the companies that we work with and how they have seen the return on their investment. And one was this about really upgrading into the cloud computing in the finance sector. So all this, that company had everything on premise cloud storage, and we moved everything them to a cloud infrastructure. Definitely, we work with companies like Naresh or whatever the other, they have a preference with their AWS or whatever. But that increased their scalability big time. They reduced their downtime and really helped them on significant labor saving, because when they had downtime, they were putting a lot of time and effort to even fix that thing. So now a lot of automation has been done and a lot of maintenance tasks are automated. So this financial company that we work with have seen about 25% reduction into their IT costs, and there is a 30% improvement into their service deliveries to their end client. And similarly, we brought AI into the manufacturing company. Now, this manufacturing company has many equipments on their manufacturing department. So we designed this whole AI software for them, along with their IoT sensors. We have IoT sensors installed into their different machinery. And we take all this data from their machine, live data, and we have this AI-driven software checking their machine's live data, and that has helped them reduce their machine downtime, their lower their maintenance cost, and the actual equipment life is got extended because it doesn't get disrupted over and over. So this manufacturing company has about almost 40% reduction in unplanned downtime. When you have planned downtime, it's a different thing, but this is an unplanned downtime. That's where the 40% reduction came in place, and 20% decrease in their maintenance costs. And usually companies like this, it takes a little more time. This company took about 18 months to get full recover all of their costs that they're implemented into their software, cloud infrastructure, and AI driven IoT sensors and like that. So 18 months they pretty much recovered everything. So there is definitely a strong change management process. You have to bring your workforce with the alignment of the new processes that you're working on, but at the same time bringing AI part on top of the software really helps them a lot in terms of the automation and savings a lot of maintenance and cost at the end.
Oh man. Now, so we're right in the thick of things now. Now you've described the change, what needs to take place during that change. You need buy-in from the stakeholders. And I want to get Naresh involved because I know there's a lot of red flags that come out. What do you watch for as these new technologies take place? And again, we're not going to escape that question I asked earlier about you got to have the right skill sets available on your bench, let's just say, to be able to handle these kinds of projects.
So, there's a couple of things that, as a cloud provider, we have to be ahead of our customer and anticipate, exactly what we're talking about here, right? Where our the person we're working with at such organizations may not have that foresight yet. We have to have that in anticipation that they're going to call tomorrow and say, well, I need to scale to X. And that might scare them, but we have to be ready to be able to deliver on that, right? And so that's very much, everything we're talking about here is very much the life we live, because we have to anticipate what's going to happen. We have to anticipate that a customer is going to get a phone call, and say, well, we're implementing new technologies. We're going to leverage AI to, implement these or automate these processes and so forth. And what does that mean? Well, let's go. We were anticipating that this was going to happen because AI is not a fad. It is beyond here. It's been implemented. It's the evolution of AI is while there's so much runway ahead for us to be able to affect change and see innovation with AI, so much has already been done that everyone may not be aware of. And Ronak actually gave some really good examples of how just our tool sets are leveraging those things. And same thing on the infrastructure side as well. Self-healing tools that reduce, eyes on, the concept of a knock is very different today than it was 20 years ago, right? And that's for a knock, a sock, all these things. Tools are able to do those things today in large capacity. But as a platform organization, we are, we have to be in front of our customers to prepare for them to scale. And as a direct result of that, we are, we have, presence in many data centers in the US and international in anticipation of the scale, but also in anticipation of the adoption of things like AI and new technologies and the light bulb going off for customers saying, well, why aren't we on that? We should have been on this a year ago. And, that decision being much quicker to adopt and go to market on these things. So we are definitely ahead of those things. We have to be in order for us to stay in business. And that's no different from any public cloud provider. In fact, I'd argue that they make my job a lot easier because, the AWS and Azures of the world make it easy for you to adopt the cloud. I'm just a better version of those guys in my eyes, right? So I'm not out there selling cloud. I'm basically saying, well, there's a better option than public cloud, and you may want to consider this because these are the things we do better. Not to take anything away from them, there's definitely a lot of value there, but we were, having a hybrid cloud solution, I think, is a sweet spot for a lot of people. Now, something I want to talk about that is really critical that we have to live every single day, our customers may not realize unless you're on your own, in which case you're not doing or you're a victim to it. We've talked a lot about last week's event with CrowdStrike, but something like, when I talk about resilience is really important to me because ransomware is a daily thing, right? Getting hacked is a daily thing for organizations. And it's not just the giants, the industry giants. It's now, the average SMB that is now affected by these things on a daily basis. So these are things, when you talk about resilience and preparation for being resilient, your ability to recover from an event like we had with CrowdStrike, whether it's something like that affected everyone, or a situation like ransomware, or one of your servers crashing and can't recover it, whatever it is, your ability to recover and return to business operations normally as quickly as possible should be paramount, just alongside with the implementation and adoption of these new technologies. And I feel like that's always at the trailing end, much like this conversation here, where we're having to sneak it in, but it's a real thing. And I find too many people are falling victim to it being an afterthought. I really believe that needs to be at the forefront because today, no one is exempt from that, right? No industry, no vertical, no industry size is exempt from that. So, having a plan for resiliency for disaster recovery or having air-gapped backups, test your backups, verify your backups are running, have backups, make sure they're air-gapped. There's many tools that comes with that, right? But, public cloud providers don't necessarily include those things. You have to do it on your own, right? I have the unique opportunity to be able to provide those things to my customers because we're a private cloud provider. When I talked about value earlier, we include all of those things that you don't have to think about. But if you're on your own in a public cloud or on-prem managing your own stuff, you have to be mindful of these things because, dare I say it, it's not if, but when.
But when. So
right?
important.
So I know we're
get
up
some
against the
last
clock.
thoughts. We're almost at the end, Naresh, and I want to make sure, I guess, get some last thoughts because you brought up some very good things for Ronak Shah. We've got about a minute or two. Can you give us some last thoughts?
Yeah. So basically, I would say that everyone has to either upgrade their infrastructure level or still the world is going to move no matter what, like on the AI, like I just saw one question from the audience, like, a lot of people think that they're going to lose their jobs because of AI is coming in, but no, it's going to create a lot of new jobs, and the AI, bringing AI into the legacy system has so many advantages that we have been seeing in the healthcare sector, in the financial sector. Definitely there are problems, upgradation issues, compatibility issues, data is everywhere. So, we have to do a lot of integration with the data, but we are at the baby steps of the AI world. And this next 10 years, decade is going to be a whole revolution of the world, which we're gonna really bow down saying that amazing, what we have seen, like, we know that robo taxis are coming up, a lot of, all these full self-driving cars. I went to San Francisco 2 weeks back and I had a ride in Google car called Waymo. It's a driverless cars. You cannot believe where the world is moving. So as I said, the AI and the infrastructure is key to the success. You have the right infrastructure and AI compatibility in whatever the business that you are in.
So important. I want to thank you two gentlemen for sharing your time, your hour with us, your insights. So important. We're going to continue to have these types of discussion with Agile InfoWays because we're on this leading edge. And what you just said earlier, Naresh, that AI, artificial intelligence, is not a fad. It is the new fabric of technology. and it's getting smarter as we go into what we call AGI, or artificial generative intelligence, that can maybe, automatically avoid a situation like a CrowdStrike. Like, hey, this is starting to impact all these systems. We got to shut this down now and kind of isolate things before we can get to the human touch. So we'll see how these things evolve over time. I want to thank everyone again for joining us. If you want to see the replay, go to Agile InfoWays on YouTube, and obviously you can always get in touch with Naresh Samlal at his, matter of fact, Naresh, tell us how to get in touch with you for 1 minute.
Real quick, nsamlal at ccsius.com, and you can check us out at ccsius.com.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you again. Tune in to us in about 1 month. We'll have Ronak back on the show, and we'll have another special guest. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Naresh. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.